Hi Virgo, welcome to your July reading. Okay. In July, you begin to understand the bonds between people. The bonds between you and others, but also between others. There is an emotional insight that perhaps has been brought on by pain or perhaps by happiness. Something has you tapped into your emotions in a way where you can easily analyze them and still feel quite a bit and take them somewhere and gain some insight from it. So it's a very interesting time. It's emotional, but not without purpose. So that's nice. On July 5th, Mars enters Taurus and CERN will turn on the Hadron Collider. I'm just going to keep saying it because I think it's a very interesting day to do that, especially considering that in Vedic astrology, Mars will actually be entering Aries the day they turn it on. So just war. Okay. Now, Mars enters Taurus and you're deeply attracted to something that you're not supposed to have. Now, oftentimes this is where Virgo will turn when they feel the stress of their life or if they feel overwhelmed by the goodness of their life. So sometimes you can have a partner, as a Virgo, you can have a partner who doesn't really understand why you did what you did when things were going so well. But it could be either or. You could be very happy and therefore be very overwhelmed by it. You could feel very successful or like you've reached some stage in your career that makes you feel content, and then as soon as you feel that contentment, it's followed up by this urge to somehow rock the boat. So that could be one of the areas that's brewing this need for something taboo. And the other side of that coin is just feeling deeply unhappy in what you're involved in, perhaps out of obligation, perhaps out of a sense of companionship, obligation. This could be something that has to do with work. Companionship, it could be something that has to do with a relationship. But in July, there is this sense of you wanting to live and find a way out, if only for a few days. And so you can very much be attracted to the person that you shouldn't be with, the person you shouldn't be contacting, the person you definitely know is bad for you. You could be prone to cheating or thinking about cheating. You could get caught cheating. For those of you who recently, within the last 3 or 4 months, did get caught either, messaging someone or something of the sort, and you're trying to build your partner's trust back up, this would be a terrible time to do anything, even if it's something harmless, because it's not. And if you do something now, you will most likely get caught and they'll never trust you again. And they're barely hanging on as it is. So just remember that. It's easy in Cancer season to be so overwhelmed by how people are behaving that you kind of want to stay inside. But instead of doing the hermit thing, I think it's important for you in July to let your friends take you out. You don't have to direct these endeavors. Let them take you where they like to go and show you what they like to see. I'm going to relate this to something that seems superficial, but it's not. Remember in Clueless, where she starts hanging out with her friends in the places that they like to go, and she starts realizing that each one of them is really, really into something. Be like that. Just kind of follow your friends around and see what they do, because you are really a student of human behavior and interaction and the bonds that are developed between people emotionally this month. You're really fascinated by it. The energy lends itself to it, and who knows what you'll end up doing with this data and how you will crunch it in the months to come. I'm sure it's gearing you up for something. Okay, let's continue here. On the 28th, we have Jupiter going retrograde, and as abstract as this question may be, or as timely as this question may be, depending on where you are in your life, You're thinking a lot about the idea of marriage. What does it mean? The abstract, the theory of it, or the very practical. Maybe you're living with someone and now you're thinking about taking the next step and what does that mean? Or maybe you're totally single and just really philosophizing about what it is to be married and what does it mean. It's an interesting question to be raised during Jupiter retrograde, but it makes sense to me because it has to do with your expansion as a person. And if you don't understand something, or if you have an irrational fear of something, as most Virgos do, of marriage, it is most definitely a block to your intelligence. There's something, of course, not something, quite a vast something behind that block that you just don't have access to, and that's a shame. So if you're able to think your way through this and really just understand what marriage is, and maybe it's for you and maybe it's not, maybe it'll, the hope is that it'll stop being a boogeyman and you can live your life not avoiding something and not being afraid of something, and just understanding whether you want that or don't want it. And then taking that extra very considerate step and being really honest with whomever you're with or whomever you meet about where you fall in that spectrum. It's a good thing to have figured out. Let's see. What else is going on during Jupiter retrograde? Why should you have to adhere to some old concept about anything? This ties in with the next thing I have written here, which is money comes in through strange opportunities. So let's talk about this. This is a question that you have to ask others, but mainly you have to ask this of yourself. Why should you adhere to an old version of anything, including yourself, including your habits, including your diet, including the way you used to think, including who you used to vote for, including what you used to dress like, including, what you used to think about this person or that person, or it's so arbitrary. It's totally up to you. You can believe it or not believe it. You can choose to completely overhaul with no shame. And I think the reason more people don't do it is because they are afraid that if it is actually possible to be any version of anything you like and not adhere to some old version, then that would make their lives a choice rather than a circumstance. And I think a lot of people are very uncomfortable with the idea of their life being their own choice. But you, being an intellectual, I can only assume, don't think that way, and can use this time in a really positive way. You can money comes in through strange opportunities, because if you're not adhering to the old version of yourself, there are a lot of people that you're meeting and a lot of places you're going and a lot of things you're saying yes to that you have not said yes to before. So, excuse me. Of course money will come in through strange opportunities. Sorry. Of course money will come in through strange opportunity because you're doing strange things. And that's great. You should do even stranger things. Don't you think? We have a lot more to talk about. Why don't we look at my new setup where you can see the cards completely overhead, and we can shuffle the cards and talk some more. Love you. Hi Virgo. Welcome to the tarot part of your reading. All right. Let's take a deep breath all together. Now, in the general part, in the astrology part, we talked about you beginning to understand more deeply the bonds between you and other people. One of the ways that this happens, obviously, is when we lose someone, or when something very, very important, foundational, has to be left behind. This can be the dissolution of a relationship, a friendship, a family relationship, or what is more probable is the dissolutioning of, or the you being disillusioned about some idea that you held very, very dear, something you clung to. It gave your life meaning. So, for example, if you were in a relationship with someone that perhaps, the spark wasn't there anymore, you weren't really feeling that person anymore, but you knew they were a really good person, so you were staying with them, and then you find out that they've actually been running around on you. It's stuff like that. It's finding things out and understanding things about people where you're thinking to yourself, I was being a good person. What were you doing? There are many situations here that have caused you quite a lot of pain, and you may even think that now is a good time to excuse me, revisit some of this, or speak to some of these people, or try in your own way to smooth things over or make sense of them. I don't think I quite understand the Virgo propensity for this kind of confusing misery. I'm not really sure what it is about that limbo when you figured out you don't want something, but you don't leave and you don't say anything, and the ensuing misery and confusion that follows. It can infect every part of your life. It's a very confusing choice, and Virgos seem to make it all the time. It's really confusing because you have this visceral reaction to things. Either something is compelling or repelling, right? Like she says, in Laurel Canyon, either it pulls you in or it repulses you. And you figure out quickly, because you're in touch with who you are, and you do a lot of thinking. You figure out quickly that you're repulsed. And then that natural next step that should come, where you decide to leave, doesn't. Now, if you were going to try to make it work or look past whatever is repulsing you, that would be one thing. But you usually don't. But you stay anyway. So you're half there and half not, one foot in the door, one foot out. And nobody's happy. This is something that by late July starts to be untenable, regardless of what the situation is. Excuse me, it's starting off like this, and it only gets weirder. Okay, so it's important not to get pulled down into this when you could be having a great summer and be out there and hanging out with your friends and meeting people and doing things that are outside your comfort zone. You could leave all this behind, and just take the parts of you that are just take what's yours and get out. You don't need to stay stuck in whatever Mars and Taurus has to show you. You don't have to stay stuck on obsessing over something you can't have, something you used to have, something that was everyday and normal. You can't take that and then take it out on yourself either, that you don't have it anymore. This is a time of flux and change, as all times are, and it's important for us to move along with the tide. And when this tide throws you back, you're tending to cling to what it's throwing you back to, and then when it recedes again, then you're having an issue because you're getting dragged. And this push and pull can keep happening all month if you don't settle yourself and reposition yourself and, get a hold of yourself. It's not about whatever is gone. Whatever these transits have to show you about your relationship to others, it doesn't mean you have to stay stuck there. It doesn't mean you have to do anything about it. If anything, this is what you should do about it. Nothing. And just move forward. Move forward with your own stuff. This going back to something that's really confusing because you want to make sense of it. There's probably a lot of astrologers who will tell you in July that that's a good idea. I don't think so. And especially because you really want to say something. Look at. Don't you love this new setup? Especially because you really want to say something. And look how it goes. Because what you're going to get back, what you think you're going to get back and what you're actually going to get back are so different. And what you're actually inviting is another opportunity for somebody to tell you the true about yourself in a way that you are not going to like. This happened to me earlier today. A Virgo called me talking about something that somebody had done to him, how they had wronged him, and I'm his friend and I should be right. I should be the one to be like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened to you. Oh my God, I can't believe she did that. But as soon as excuse me while I move this whole setup around. But as soon as he told me, oh my God, Jesus. But as soon as he told me, the first thing that I said to him was, well, but haven't you kind of been doing the same thing, like, for a while now? And he was like, well, yeah, but... And I was like, okay, well, when you try to... When you try to reach out, post whatever is going on here and try to kind of reclaim something or get attention for something, it's very possible for whoever you're talking to just reflect back to you like a mirror, a very uncomfortable mirror, the things that you don't want to see and the things that you're running from. So it's not just about being attracted to people from very, very far away who are totally different from you. It's also about being attracted to people who are telling you things that you really need to hear, that perhaps people around you haven't been telling you enough of. There's a lot of tough love for you in Cancer season, and it really is, very practical, and there's a lot of transits with Pluto. There's a lot of practical get your shit together moments for Virgo right now, and that's okay. This is what you need. This is where we're at, and you do have a bit of romance coming into your life, especially once Mars moves into Taurus. So you want to, again, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. What are we doing? Are we staying home or are we going out? Like, which one do you want? Do you want to stay over here or do you want to come over here? You have attractions that are pulling you all the way away from the norm for what is you, right? You have this money energy brewing. Anything that's been slowed down, as soon as Leo season hit, it starts to move. And then you have these opinions
that some people have been harboring for a while, and you've been going through it, so they haven't been wanting to tell you, but now they feel like, oh, maybe you have a little room to breathe. Maybe now I can also tell you how I've been feeling, and this is my opinion on what you've been doing. And it can get hectic. So again, all these different ways, all these externalities that are saying, hey, look at your relationships with other people. What does being married mean to you, Virgo? What gets you there? It's a big question. A lot of you are going to decide nothing. Nothing gets me there. It doesn't mean anything to me. A lot of you are like, well, I don't even need the person to be faithful. A lot of you are like, it would have to be the very perfect person to be. Like, what does it mean to you? Figure it out. What does it mean to be part of a unit? That's implied within the Empress energy. That's the Empress is the Empress because the Emperor is the Emperor. Right? You're talking about these things. You're thinking about these. Some of you were very seriously contemplating marrying someone and have just figured out some very harsh truths. Ooh, these are the kind of harsh truths that are even beyond like, oh, she was fucking somebody. No. This is like, ooh, I see something in this person now that I can't unsee. It's that type of stuff. And especially if you were going to marry the person, it's a big blow. It's a lot to deal with. So, what do? We have all these up and downs, all these revelatory moments, you kind of coming to your senses, right? And realizing, actually, I don't think I want to get married. Or, I want to get married, I want to have a baby right now. Depends on what's going on with your partner, but you're making big sudden decisions is the point, and you're making them about areas of your life that you are usually very cautious about, and it's because you feel the love and you're ready to revitalize your love life. You're ready to be honest. You're ready to be how you should always be in relationships, honest and compassionate and kind and willing to leave the past and whatever the heck was going on before behind. Starting over is not easy. These are the cards that we'll be looking at in the extended. Starting over is not easy. Feeling like you're starting from the very bottom and all the time and effort you put into something was a waste, especially if you get really attached to things. It's not easy, but you've got to keep a handle on yourself. You've got to remember who you are. Here's that Gemini energy, just in case you were wondering who are the people around you who are going to make you remember who you are. You got to remember who you are. You got to remember how capable you are. And you have to remember that there's still a lot of love out there for you. Starting over isn't such a bad thing. But we'll talk about this in the extended, because there's quite some to unpack here. In the meantime, a few words. When we have these periods of disillusionment, and Cancer season is known for it, some signs take it much harder than others. You particularly have a very hard time with your notions about people being betrayed. It may be said that it hurts worse for you than the actual betrayal. Sure, the betrayal hurts, it stings. But the thought that you were wrong about somebody, that you missed the signs, that you didn't see it coming, that's the stuff that can really, really bother you and get under your skin, because it has to do with what you think of yourself and how capable you are. It can affect your self-esteem when you misjudge someone and they screw you over or turn out to be so much different than you thought they were, and can cause you so much pain. Well, there's no point in playing that game with yourself. The betrayal by others is not a chance for you to beat yourself up, no matter how much logical sense it makes to you. There's no logical sense in why people hurt each other and why people fuck each other over. you beating yourself up for not being able to anticipate that is not normal. You would be abnormal if you were constantly second guessing the people around you who you're supposed to trust, who profess to love and trust you. Okay? So don't beat yourself up for being eccentric and paranoid and mistrusting everybody around you. You were normal, and somebody lied to you, deceived you, took from you, hurt you, whatever they did. They didn't do it because you didn't catch them before they did it. That's not your job. They did it because they did it. And for all intents and purposes, it has nothing to do with you. And that's also a big part of what makes it easier to let these things go. Harder for you, but easier for most. It's not about you. These things that people do to us and that we do to others, it's never about them and it's never about us. We do what we do to others because it is a reflection of whatever we feel about ourselves, and others do to us what they feel is a reflection of their worth and who they are. So, now we look forward at this love, at this dedication to work and where that goes next, and at this starting over, this rising from the ashes. I will see you in the extended. The easiest way, where we'll be talking about these cards, the easiest way to gain access to the extended is to join Patreon. It's seamless. The videos just show up for you in your inbox. You don't have to do anything. The second way that you can get access to the extended is through Vimeo. That link is below as well. And we are doing a Summer of Revolution tour. There is an event in LA. That event is sold out. There's an event in Denver. That's on July 9th. And there's an event in New York City on August 14th, inshallah. Those tickets are below. And there's also an online event that is later in August. That link is below as well. And these are all Eventbrite links. If you are interested in doing a live reading, we're doing them on July 11th. One-on-one FaceTime readings. And then if you're interested in a recorded reading, there is a link as always below to Cameo, where you can get a private recorded reading sent to you. I think we've covered everything. Yes? Good. I love you. I'm putting out a podcast episode tonight called The 12 Goodbyes. It's actually some content, or you can call it press content, for an ebook I have coming out called The 12 Goodbyes. So the 12 goodbyes are 12 letters written to the 12 signs. Like when you're breaking up. Old school shit. But the podcast tonight will be kind of a funny nod to the concept by doing 12 voicemail messages to the 12 signs. So the Virgo one... The Virgo one is not fiction. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, I'll link that below as well. The podcast is called Revolution Ramblings if you're interested. I love you. I'll see you in the extended right now.